Welcome to Roasting the World, where we offer an adversarial perspective on today's cultural issues. We do it for the intelligent culture. I'm your host, Keenan Robinson, and we have a special guest today,
Dia Jackson McClure.
All right, so our topic today to be roasted is planning. Now, they say poor preparation prevents positive performance, right? I've been told the 5 P's for a lot of time in my life, but that comes down to planning. They say that where preparation meets opportunity is the definition of luck. And so that means that there is no luck. Where you, like Kobe said, or Michael Jordan said, or, Derrick Henry, or whoever said, you weren't with me shooting shots in the gym. So then when I come out here and I hit the game winner, or I come out here and I execute my plan and I'm successful, it's not because it's luck, it's because I planned it. And I planned it through action steps. And action steps kind of look like, okay, you observe the situation, you make a plan, and then you act on it. So that is what we're trying to lay out today. And we're going to talk about family, planning those things out, because a lot of times they're not planned. We're going to talk about how to execute starting a business. We're going to talk about just being financially literate and making sure that you plan for the future. Like they say, you should always have a nest egg or 6 months saved up, or, rainy day fund or something like that. And I know for a fact, not a lot of people have those things. I don't have those things currently. I used to, but, such is life. But it's just the fact that we do have to plan for those things. And so we brought a special guest on to go ahead and kind of jump in there and tell us kind of your perspectives on making sure that we prepare or plan for life in general.
Yeah, so it's funny. I'm like holding back a smile because I was just talking to somebody about them. They're essentially restarting their entire business because they, like a lot of people, like most people, were not planning for COVID. They weren't planning for
COVID,
for the pandemic, right? And they were. I think sometimes at this point, right? You talked about the 5 P's, and I think there may be some of our audience may be familiar with that in reference to preparation and the importance of those things. But this conversation in particular earlier that I was having with this particular person, we were talking about how everything at that time was fine. Right. Like there wasn't anything,
to plan for.
Yeah, she was like, well, there wasn't anything to plan for, so we're at a solid and established point in our business. We're daughters in college. I think they were somewhere in Alabama, Roll Tide. But fully paid scholarship, like all of that, super, super excited, went on and on and on about just all of the things that were ready, right? And then the unexpected happened, and then the shutdown happened, and then it was, we're home for 2 months, and then it was like...
For a year.
Yeah. And then turned into a year, and then the entire family dynamic changed, and then you add to that sickness. And, of course, we talk about that being what made the pandemic such a wide-reaching, extremely impactful thing throughout the world, is that you had the combination of the health crisis and the impact to the economy.
Right.
And what that did, so it was multifaceted and multifold, if you want to look at it that way, but it was like, there was nothing to plan for.
Right.
And so I think a lot of the times about, sometimes those uncomfortable conversations about, when a loved one passes away, estate planning, who gets what, a lot of us are out here with siblings and, maybe we don't want to have the conversation about mama and daddy and, the house we grew up in and all of that. But it's certain things I think are inevitable.
Right.
Change and death being a couple of those things. Right. So if they are indeed inevitable, why aren't they things that we do regularly have conversations about having contingencies around and it not being taboo? Like, why is it that somebody has to get sick before we take something seriously? I was just talking to a family member earlier, and their family through marriage, and we were talking about just that whole like line of the family. It just seemed like they were going to a different funeral like every other week for a while, right? And sometimes that happens in in those sequences like that, those unfortunate sequences, and it's like it clearly is a very regular occurrence,
right?
But we don't talk about how to plan.
And the thing is, we're not benefiting from it like other cultures do. And I say that because I was talking to my god brother Justin. They're from Iowa. Shout out to IA. And he was saying how they started some type of it was like a life insurance policy, but that you can borrow from.
Yep.
Right?
Yes. And
they had it since they was young. So that by the time they get 16, their mom and dad is letting them go buy a new Corvette. And he was like, I wonder how these folks is doing this. What do they know? What do they do? Because they live next door to me or down the street or go to the same school. What are they doing that we're not doing? What do they know? And it's because they've planned for 16 years later, because we know we need him a car. So they're gaining interest on their investment. And then there's other ways where, a lot of people don't have life insurance policies. And everyone, like you said, is going to pass one day, and that's a blessing to be able to live to a ripe old age. But in order to leave some things behind for your family, you plan for that. You get a life insurance policy. You get something that can be split, multiple ways, or 50-50 or whatever. Shout out to Uncle Rob. He's the first person that ever did that for me. And, I was like, wow. And it wasn't a whole lot of money, but it was like, okay, this is something. You know what I mean?
Well,
and it's better than nothing. Master P, shout out No Limit Records, started because I think his grandfather passed and gave him $10,000, and he's turned it to a $250 million empire because somebody left him something. And just that planning piece, and then even with starting the business, he had to say, okay, this is what I got. And he might have some other type of money, but I'm just talking about that piece. He had to strategically plan to where he's going to put this, right? And a lot of times when we get something, we're going to spend it on the new J's. We're going to spend it on a car which depreciates in value. We're going to spend it on something frivolous. We're going to go on a trip, and everybody says, I got to live, and I want to go on all this, and that's cool. I get that, right? But get your bread up before you start living rich, And the thing is, if you invest that property, you can double and triple it. Go buy a property. Go get some certificate of deposit. I don't know. There's not a lot of interest in that, but get a money market savings account that bears interest, so that you can gain money on top of your money, and then you can plan to take that money and do what you please with it. But my point is, I think that planning is super important for life situations, for family, for business, for relationships, for having kids. You need to think about things before you do it. I tell my son this thing. I say, what do you need to do, KJ? And he says, I need to listen and I need to think. And that's how we got to move out here in order to be successful, because we're playing a game that we didn't create at first, and we don't know all the rules to it. We don't know all the ins and outs and all the loopholes. Like Donald Trump said, look, it's holes in the tax system for me to use, so I'm going to use them until you close them, period. And that's genius. I'm not necessarily saying I'm supporting him or anything like that, but the man has read the tax code book, and just like when dealing, interacting with police, you got to know the law. When you're doing any type of business deal, you got to know the law. And that takes planning, because you have to do your research, which is planning on the front end. So when you get in these situations, you know exactly how to talk, you know exactly how to move. And a lot of people don't plan for that. They go in winging it. And I've done it before and balled out because I just went in there and was me and just I'm me, charisma, right? But when you get into a certain level and talking to certain people, Charisma is cool, and it may get you in some doors, but you need to study and plan your moves so that you can be 100% more successful than if you just go in there and somebody asks you a question and you don't know any answers to it. You know, so you got to plan for those type of things. If you want to jump in there and
Yeah, so I think you hit the nail on the head. That planning is there's no luck. You know, you're gonna, particularly when it comes to business, and I think you use the no limit reference and that $10,000 investment. The reality is, for what you would waste on bad fast food, you can have an insurance policy that will make the difference in whether your son or the next generation goes to college.
right,
Will make the difference in whether or not they have a down payment for their starter home.
right,
And home ownership, you know, we talk about it, and I think sometimes, you know, there's an intimidation because a lot of us didn't grow up with certain types of financial knowledge.
Right.
You know, we might not have experienced a budget. That might not been, you know, we might not have had that type of dinner table conversation, if
Right.
at all.
Right,
You
right.
know, so I think, you know, it is important to note that, but also note that the barriers are a lot more narrow than they used to be.
right,
To how you get to the start of generational wealth.
right,
You know, there are, if you take the average person and you take somebody, you know, let's say you take somebody who has a business. Let's take a young Master P, for example, started a business, and his business, let's say he has businesses that have partners,
right,
and let's say he has insurance on all of those partners. And that's part of his legacy and part of what he passed down within his estate. And let's say that that's not even including his life insurance policy that will cover his life.
right,
That means that when he leaves this earth, if he doesn't do anything else but have paid that policy, he paved the way for whoever that next person is, whoever
Right.
that next in line is. There's somebody that I know that their grandfather had a small plot of land, and they turned that into a garden, and they researched grant money. This was in outside of kind of a rural area, and they researched grant money on you know, what might be available, and they turned that into a viable business that is now a community garden
Right.
that nobody can touch. So he's done two things. He's continued to protect that legacy, and he's turned it into something income producing by just somebody passing that down to him.
right,
You know, so there's so many pathways. I think there's so many ways to get started. There's so many ways to begin to plan, because I know for a lot of people, just the start of planning is overwhelming.
Yeah.
You know, sitting down to say I got to make a list, you know, that is intimidating to some people.
right.
And so, you know, even just the start of understanding that there's so many ways, there's so many paths forward, so many.
And the thing is just to take the first step.
Right.
You know, and just like if, you know, with starting a business, you have to have a business plan. Everyone wants to know, well, how am I going to make my investment money back?
Right.
You know, so
Yes.
you have to show me like a 5-year valuation, of 10-year valuation, you know, short-term, long-term, your SWOT analysis, you know, that's strengths, weaknesses, things like that, to where I have to buy in to your plan. Anything that you want to do, if you're going to go and, no, I'm not going to say that. If you're going to go and do anything, you need to make sure that you plan first, because if you go out there half-cocked, your percentages, it's just a numbers thing. You know, if your percentages are lower because you don't have a plan, you haven't looked at the layout, you haven't said, okay, this is, you know, how many guards come by every 5 seconds or 5 minutes, you know, so you can say, okay, this is the opportune time to do it. Just like we have to look at stocks. We have to look at, okay, are they going up and down? Okay, they're down right now, so I'm going to purchase. And then when they go back up, I've made money. You know, but I'm not going to wait till they're highest. But you got to pay attention. You have to pay attention to whatever you're doing. If you're taking a test, you need to plan for it. If you're going to work in the morning, because I don't like mornings, and I've said this on the show before, I'm not a morning person, right? So what I have to do in order to break down some of that angst I plan. So I'm gonna go ahead. Oh, let me find my clothes to wear in the morning. Let me get me a shirt and some pants, iron them up, get my socks and everything together, and have it laid out and ready, because I don't want to be scrambling like that in the morning.
Right.
So I got to plan for success, because if I don't, then I've seen how it's gonna go.
Right.
You know, I've been struggling in the morning. I can't find no shirt. I can't find all mismatched socks, or my shoe missing. You know, whatever it is, crazy stuff be happening when you don't plan.
Right.
You know, and when
you
you're
get in Nashville traffic.
right, and just like being in a relationship, what like for me, the woman says, hey, I want you to plan a date for us. I don't want to have input. I want you to be a man, step up and plan something and tell me when to be ready and come pick me up and let's go.
Yeah.
That's what it is, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so with that being said, so you planning for business, you planning for relationships. Okay, when you're having kids out here, right? Now, you can just be willy-nilly and go out here and just have a kid out of wedlock and not plan it, and, you know, deal with the repercussions that's going to cause. Like, for example...
and consider this new legislation. Whatever side of it you're on, you have to consider it.
Right. Well, tell us about the new legislation.
Well, you know, hopefully we've been following along a little bit, but regarding the abortion laws that are passed and are active in some states that are making it illegal for young women to get abortions. So that is, I feel like we are in a common culture where children are considered little unplanned blessings. And that is a norm. And I think that however you feel about it, it was at one point a luxury. I think that, you know, a luxury of a choice that was available. Right. And now we are at a point where it's kind of we're going back in time here, and now, you know, you have to consider that differently.
Right.
You have to consider, you know, am I ready if I'm making certain choices to move forward in a relationship or a situationship with the person? Am I ready for what might happen?
Right.
And that's the thing. It's not about, you know, what's happening. It's about what might happen.
Right.
Right.
And that's why you plan.
Exactly.
I mean, and then at the same time, for me, like child support, you know what I mean? Like, hey,
yeah.
If anybody know,
hey.
Man, I've been to court probably at least 5 to 7 times, right? For one kid. You know what I mean? Like, it's crucial. You know, and then, you know, my other kid has been, you know, a lot better so far, but, you know, just that experience let me know, hey man, you didn't plan for this. You weren't protecting yourself enough to not be in this situation. One, by vetting the person that you're having kids with to see how they're going to move in those type of situations. You really don't know, but you got to, you know, observe people, you know. And then, like, okay, so what does that mean if I don't get married? You know? And this is all thought process that you're going to have, you know. Yeah. And then, okay, now she's going down to the court and saying that you're a deadbeat or whatever because you don't want to be with her, even if you're taking care of your kid, whatever that situation may look like. You didn't plan for none of this, right? But now they taking money out your check. Now you got to, you know, get insurance for that baby. Now you got to, you know, make sure you picking up and dropping out. You got this a whole lot for 18 years. Now, how you know that's your kid? You know what I mean? So you better go down somewhere and get you some a test or something, because people will just let you take care of a baby that's not yours for 25,000 years. So that's a long time. But I'm said that to say, if you planned on the front end.
Yeah.
If you said, okay, who is this person? Because some people, it's just like that. Y'all going to be together. You're going to have kids. It's going to be fine. But then you got those people that you're not going to be with that you don't need to have children with. You know, point blank period. You have to be very selective about who you have children with, because, and who you marry, because those are both ties. And when you get those ties, it's not just a spiritual tie. It's a legal tie. To where if you abandon this kid, the police come look at you and say, why you abandon your kid? You going to jail. Right. Somebody else need to take it because you can't, and they put something on your record. You know what I mean? Or if you got a spouse, you're legally bound to this particular person until you're not, and that's a process,
right?
You know, that you got to plan for,
right?
So why not just plan on the front end and say, this is how I want to move, you know, because people get divorced every day because, you know, they might have planned on being together their whole life, but you don't plan on, you know, things happening that I just don't like this fool no more. I don't like how he chew. I don't like how he look. He tap his foot. He scratch his head like he ugly. Like he chew too loud. Like stuff get on people's nerves and that they.
Hopefully they're not divorcing for those
they
reasons,
are.
but no, you're right.
They
you're
are
right.
though.
You're right.
You know, and then like the time passes and like you can't take it no more. It's absolutely getting on all your nerves. And you want to punch this person in the face. So
like
you got to get away. You got to plan. So you got to get away from that. You know, or plan on making sure that you have those conversations and say, hey, this get on my nerve. You need to stop doing it. Otherwise, I'm gonna punch you in the face. Or whatever. You know, I don't know how women talk to men no more, but you know, I'm just saying. But you do have to plan, and that's the only way you're really going to be successful. Yes, there are people that just do stuff and, you know, they win, right? That's not the norm for everybody. Be sure that when I listen to great athletes and great scholars and people of, you know, high esteem, they say that they're not afraid to fail forward. They're not afraid, like what's his name, Thomas Edison creating a light bulb or, you know, filament or whatever he did. I'm not sure if it's a black person or him, but what I mean is he did it over 1,000 times before he got it right the one time. So you know, you have to be able to put yourself in a position to where you have enough time to observe something before you do it. Pay attention to it. Study it. You know what I mean? You don't just go in the kitchen and just start cooking.
Right.
You know, you actually say, let me look at the direction. Let me ask my mama, you know, or my big mama or something to help me. Matter of fact, let me watch you for a while. That's planning. Because you planning on getting in there cooking you something, but you got to know the steps to do it.
That's right.
And it's really important, even driving a car. You know, that's 10,000 pounds of metal. You know, and if you don't know where you're going because you haven't planned out a route, you're just going to be driving. You know, and
gas is expensive.
And gas is super expensive. We got to plan for that too. Otherwise, if you ain't looking at this gas hand and then time go by and you get that orange light, you in Egypt, like, hey, you better plan on finding you a gas station.
And it's been hot.
Man, it's been super hot.
Yeah.
But I mean, I was in Vegas a little bit,
for that.
and it was 115 degrees. You can't plan for that. I mean, I'm outside and I got on like a t-shirt, like undershirt, some little short, not little shorts, but regular shorts, you know what I mean? And a backpack, and underneath my backpack it was all wet. Like I'm talking about, I'm sweating.
Vegas heat.
Hiding from the heat. You can't plan for Vegas heat.
Yeah.
In the summer, I don't care what you're talking about.
Yeah, it's coming for everybody.
Desert. This is
Take
a desert.
no prisoners. Yeah.
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 But what I did was I got a plan together.
What did your plan involve to keep you from the heat?
So when I'm outside, I gotta be near buildings so that if I get too hot, I can dip off and steal some AC, buy something to drink, you know, be a person at their establishment and give them a little bread, you know, because it's worth it to spend 10 minutes in here to get out of
it's hot,
hell, you know what I mean? Because it's like desert. Desert heat different than the rest of the heats.
I'm not gonna lie, I don't like humid heat.
Man.
The humid heat, I can't, because it feels like breath, and I can't.
It feels like breath. What does
yeah,
that mean?
I don't. It just is hot and moist, and it's not.
I just feel like breath.
It's not good. It's not good for anybody. So anyway, I don't like excessive heat at all.
Right.
But the humid heat is.
Vegas heat's like oven heat. If you ever try to grab something out the oven, you need a glove.
I could do Vegas heat better.
I've been in Tennessee for a long time. I've been in Florida. I've been to the Bahamas, Hawaii. I've been all over the place. This is the hottest I've ever been. Like, and I was thinking about going to Africa.
Go to Vegas
I was thinking about going to Africa in October, right? And
that's a good time.
That's what I was thinking too. But I was like, if Vegas is 115.
It's
if
not.
You go to South Africa.
No, people
below the equator.
No, that is a big misconception. That is not.
I got a plan.
I was chilly when I was in Cape Town. I was chilly when I went.
Okay.
So, but I mean, it's not you go during certain seasons, and it depends on where you are.
Not rainy season, because then I don't know.
It's still pretty.
Yeah, but I need to be able to move around, and I want to be able to be aware of everything around me. Sometimes when it rains, it kind of, dims the senses. I need to know if it's like a bear,
And then you
lion,
can't
or
plan
something coming
accurately.
around or something. I need to, be fight or flight real quick. I don't know. Maybe I don't know. Anyways, so the topic of planning, I just feel like it's super important for our culture specifically because in a lot of ways, according to today's standards, we're kind of behind. And yes, we love each other and we can dance and athletes and sing and we got some scholars and some great thinkers and all that stuff, and leaders. But even with all that being said, we still need to put some speed behind us. Some
A
warp
lot of the
speed,
times we're
push.
last to know. We are last to know in our communities. A lot of the times.
Why?
I think there's systemically everywhere
we can't
you
change.
look,
I mean, we keep saying
you
systemically. What can we do to switch this? I know we got the and then we did the voting rights, and then we got the Jim Crow or Civil Rights Acts and stuff like that. Man, that things took a long time to get. People had to die to get that. So how much gnashing of teeth and clawing our way up? And then what is the thing that we're trying to get next? Everybody talking about like reparations, people talking about like 40 acres and a mule or business or just my credit taken off for student loan debt or whatever. What for our community specifically, not for everybody, not just for women, not just for LGBTQ community, but just for us in general, right? What is that next systemic thing? Not just like a mindset, but systemic thing that we need to try to pursue?
I think serious business ownership.
Okay.
A lot of what's...
So what that means is make it easier for us to access the capital.
That's a piece of it.
Okay.
That's a piece of it. So one of the things I consistently educate on is some of the barriers to accessing capital.
Okay.
And a lot of that has to do around being properly set up.
Right. Planning.
Planning.
Yeah.
Are you an actual business in your state where you're registered? Is your business a business and not a hustle?
Right.
A lot of people have a hustle. Our communities have
like
no shortage. Our communities have no shortage of hustle.
But if you put the right paperwork behind that, it's a business now and it's not a hustle.
Right, and that makes the difference.
I think
in you
it's
being
taxable.
Able to get. That makes the difference in your taxable income. That makes the difference in what you can actually write off. Right. That makes the difference in your whatever your income situation is going to be. That makes a difference in so many facets. It makes a difference in your grant opportunities. It makes a difference in your contract opportunities. It makes a difference in every facet.
Right.
To be appropriately and legally compliant and set up. On the lender side of things, a lot of those things go hand in hand. A lot of the questions people have initially, everybody's so excited about grant funding, and it's like the pandemic happened, and now everybody wants an SBA loan, and everybody wants PPP, and everybody. These have become buzzwords, right. As opposed to I have a plan behind what I'm doing with this money.
Exactly.
Right? I have a plan for how this $20,000 PPP loan is going to make my business $40,000 within X time frame.
Right.
Right? And so those are the things that really propel and launch people forward. It's one thing to talk about business, but let's talk about it. Small businesses are their people.
Right.
And when you think about propelling people forward, propelling our communities forward, it's like the better positioned you are, the better you can help me out. What is it when you get on a flight? Put your mask on first before assisting others. Right? So I need you to be the best you. If I'm in a community that's underserved, I need to see that corner business being the best business that it can possibly be.
Right.
I need to see it coming up. I need to see them upgrade their bathrooms.
So then how can we get our community to support? Because really that's where the money is going to come from. Yes, we can get the SBA, the loans and different things like that. But that's a temporary fix. You know what I mean? So, but you have to have something that's viable that's going to keep rolling, the snowball effect, especially somebody giving you $20,000, $50,000, $100,000.
That's right.
Like, that's a good startup. You know what I mean? Even if you're doing like real estate, you know what I mean? But anyway, what do we need to improve? What kind of self-worth, what kind of thought process do we need to have to say,
we got to be willing to invest in ourselves in different
exactly.
ways. Because so it's so funny. Overall, I'm not on social media much, but I definitely heard everybody who was going to or supporting the Beyonce concert talking about the tickets and talking about the ticket prices.
They're like a bow wow.
Right. And so
bow wow to see Beyonce.
And so
no sir.
And so a conversation that I have is, how long did it take you to make the decision to buy a Beyonce ticket that cost you $1,000, and how long will it take you to get a business advisor that may cost you the same? A qualified business advisor to cost you the same. And the reality is, a lot of us will a lot more quickly go to Beyonce because that's instant gratification. I get my instant hit from the instant.
And they'll say you gotta live, you gotta have fun, you only live once. I want to do what I want to do with money. I gotta all that stuff. But like,
and I say you only live once, you only die once too.
Yeah, and there's a quote that says, "Live like no one wants to for whatever amount of time. To live like it's hard to do or something, and to get the life that you want, basically, for the long term."
Yeah.
So make those sacrifices. I mean, Beyonce got the bread. She don't need your money. You need your money to go do stuff.
And the reality is, you can't plan for everything.
Right.
And because you can't plan for everything, better you have a nest egg somewhere.
Right.
Than not have anything and have the unthinkable happen.
Like Batman has a contingency plan for every superhero.
Yeah.
And he's a regular dude. Yeah, he got some extra strength and stuff like that, but he can't fly, can't shoot beams out his eyes, you know what I'm saying? Can't do those things, but he can defeat everybody else because he plans. He said, okay, Superman don't like kryptonite, let me give me a pistol with that kryptonite bullet. Oh, you got Flash over there doing this. Oh, let me get this right here.
And whatever he doesn't plan for, Alfred does.
Exactly.
That's a perfect example of somebody understanding, I can't do it all. I need to have somebody in my corner.
Right. And he don't invent the Batcopter and the Batmobile. Somebody else invents that. He just pays for it. You know what I mean? So it's somebody else behind him that's smarter than him.
Using OPM to get things done. Exactly. Yes, exactly. That's a prime example of that. So basically what we're saying is, if you're a Batman fan, you don't have an excuse.
No, that's true. My brother's a Batman fan. And I'm like, bruh, why ain't you a millionaire by now? You know, that's your dude. Trying to get like him, man. You need to be out here getting it. Yeah. You know, but on the real though, I think that the topic of planning is super important for our community. You know, and I know you have any last points before we roasted or toasted that you want to make? Or?
Absolutely. So shameless plug. Anybody who is in the Nashville area, we are going to be hosting an event the end of the month for August for owners serious and really getting their business together. Right. So we may be dropping some details to that in this video. Are we going to drop some details to that after the...
We can put it in the tagline, and if you want to just shout out the actual place or company or something like that.
So Graham's Coffee in Nashville.
Shout out Graham's Coffee, Nashville.
We're going to be hosting something the end of the month. We will be posting the details so you can check out the date. It'll be the last week. But we talked about community and planning. Part of it is just really taking that first step to get plugged in. Right. A lot of the times, I'll never forget the first known millionaire that I met that also happened to be a famous person. I met because I bumped into them and I chose to acknowledge it and speak rather than just keep going on about my way. Right. And the reality is, in this society right now today, a lot of it is as easy as, I don't have to be bothered, right? Because I got a million things going on. But a lot of it starts with getting plugged into the right community, getting plugged into the right people. So we want to help make that available and support a great Black business while we're doing it, and support wonderful, awesome Black business owners and network. So be on the lookout for that.
All right, so we have, roasted or toasted. You roast something, you throw it in the fire. We don't need to talk about it anymore. You toast it. Like, hey, this is something that our community really needs to really continue to do or continue to have those robust conversations about. So, concerning planning, give us your spiel. Talk to the audience and let them know, how you feel about it concerning all the different levels.
Planning is essential. We love it. We love planning. There's so much in life that happens, seriously, that you can't plan for.
Right.
And whether that's your business, you may not plan for a partnership to go sour. You may not plan for a COVID pandemic situation to force you to take a pivot yet. You may not have planned to have twins or children at all, and suddenly here you are. Nonetheless, planning as best you can and being prepared, being in a situation where you're setting yourself up with a cushion, where you don't feel like you have to worry, where you don't feel like you have to be concerned, or as best you can, you at least feel like you have a plan B, plan C, and have help for what you don't know. You don't know everything. No man and no woman, no person is an island. So whatever you don't know and you need help with, seek help. Put yourself in the place. Yes, plan for success in all areas.
Right, and I also toast planning because there are times when I have not planned things, and they may have been successful in some ways, but if I had planned them, they probably would have been even more successful. And you have to plan for success, and you have to do the work on the front end in order to get the outcome on the back end. And yes, I'm not going to say that we're a monolith and this is something that's, everybody's just going to jump out the gym and be great. Even Michael Jordan failed, right? And
that's part of it. Plan to fail too. Yeah. That's part of that growth.
And be able to grow from that, know that that's part of the growth process.
Yes.
And, and then you can come back stronger the next time and keep balling out and, starting that business, take that first step. You want home ownership, take that first step. You want your family to have a legacy and generational wealth, you be that change maker. You be the first step to make, but you got to plan it out and know where you're going, because sometimes you're the only person that has traveled this path, and you have to look at it from a broad perspective and from a narrow perspective, and you have to plan your journey, because if you don't, you're going to hit a lot more potholes than you really need to. And we may do that anyway, but then you can tell the next generation, hey, this is how I did it. This is the path that I took. Plan better. Now there's a hole over there. There's something that's going to stop you over here. Let's go around those things so that you can get straight to the bread or straight to the finish line a lot faster. But you have to listen and you have to plan. You got to listen to the people that's already been there. It's great to have mentors. It's great to have people that know what they're talking about or been there, or even just have your best interest in mind that's going to give you sound advice, even if they have not done what you're trying to do. Because you need help planning. I have a mastermind group. So where I have a group of people that I ask questions to, that I plan with, that I say, what do you think should go next in this film? What do you think could go next on this podcast? What, steps do you think I should take for this, that, and the other? And you utilize that group to bounce things off of. And then they can come to you and bounce things off of too. And that's how you start your plan, by making sure that you hit it from multiple perspectives. I'm the type of person that I don't just see things from one side, and that may be why my mind is sometimes chaotic, because I see it from that side, this side, what can happen over here, what happen if I do this, and it's like playing a game of chess. Every move that you make in life, something else happens because of it. So make sure that what you're doing is you're moving strategic, which means that you planned it. So that's my take on planning. I think our culture really needs that, because sometimes we just crashing out, we wilding out, we just living wild and free, doing what we want to do. And that's cool if you're young and can stay alive, but we dying out here and we getting old. We 50, 60, 70 years old, still living the same kind of life. We still haven't done anything. We still sitting on the same corners. We still doing the same things, and we haven't progressed. We're just spinning our wheels. And I think we need really to ask God to enlarge our territory, and ask God to give us wisdom and love for each other and patience, because Rome wasn't built in a day. You don't eat an elephant in one bite, you know, and so you got to really take your time and do it right so that you can have the best possible outcome in most of the situations. Because like you said, you can't plan for everything, but try to be prepared for most things. So that's my take on it. And, you know, I want to thank you for, you know, coming up here being a special guest. You know, look forward to seeing her on more shows. Look for us in the upcoming film, The Toxic King. You know, look for the Peacemakers 1 and 2, Nothing Without God 1 and 2, and Closer to God, all of them on Tubi. You know, Netflix is coming real soon, we hoping. We got a new movie coming out in January 2024 called The Frozen Hearts. It's a love story. And so we got a lot of stuff going on. Check out the podcast. Make sure that you check out Nothing Without God Productions, Inspirational Life Films. We got a lot of things going on. Transcend, you know, balling out in every kind of way possible. But until next time, stay ready so you don't got to get ready. And stay tuned for another exciting episode of Roasting the World.